I suppose. All right. Be doing some browsing of the technology news. Nothing too exciting, but it's been a while, so here we are. I'd like to work more on this channel. It's been a little challenging lately to make it happen, but that is the goal. So hopefully all of you will join me as I try to improve this channel. Anyways, in these streams, I'm just going to look at whatever news is available on various websites. If you know of any other websites that I'm missing here, feel free to post the name of it. Links are disabled in the chat windows, most likely, so don't send links, but the name of the website will work. Anyways. So let's take a look. I feel like video cards is one of the best ones, but before that, I was going to look at the Steam hardware survey for November just to get an idea of like what was happening last month. I don't know when these release, so who knows when the December one's going to show up. But just a general idea. They're fun to look at, and they do, at least gaming related, they kind of encompass a little bit of useful information on what's going on with PC components and such. So we've got PC video card usage by manufacturer. It honestly looks like this little graph is kind of difficult to tell, but maybe NVIDIA is dropping. Is that possible? Okay, that's DirectX, not super useful. Yeah, it's not grouped up by manufacturers, sadly. But it is here. So 73%, 0.3 has that. No, other. Intel is the. It's probably mostly integrated graphics for Intel. Still, even though ARC has been around for a while now. Yeah, it's tough to tell. It looks like there's a slight drop for NVIDIA. I'm part of the problem because I have a 4060, which was not one of the smartest purchases that I've ever made, but hey, it works. And it was back when there weren't ARC wasn't available. Yeah, I'm limited on the expense of stuff, so it seemed like the best option because I specifically wanted AV1 encode decode, hardware-based AV1, which I have used a little bit here and there. Actually, I'm probably streaming in AV1 to one of the platforms right now. I'm doing multi-streaming, but Twitch is very particular about mentioning stuff, so I try not to too often. Anyways, PC usage, AMD is crushing it with CPUs. I mean, it's kind of no contest at the moment. But, I mean, depending on price, Intel, their latest stuff is probably fine. I haven't honestly looked at it much, so I can't really comment on performance related to AMD's current stuff. But, you know, I wouldn't say the CPU is a huge, or should be a huge factor. Because there'll probably be kind of a limit of where it's good enough for a long time. Let's see. More detail. OS version. So Windows 11 is gaining, or last month it was gaining a little bit of usage. At one point I did use Linux for a year or two as my main computer. This was back in 2011, I think it was. It was all right, but I had a lot of issues with creative uses. I would like to go and take a look at it again to see what the current situation is, considering that's 10, 15, 15 years ago, something like that. But I haven't tried that yet. So largest GPU is a laptop 4060. Okay. 6 cores for the CPU, down slightly. For the longest time, I was on a 4-core CPU. I still have it in the background. I use it for various things now. But my current one is a 12-core 9900X from AMD. I have a bunch of videos on the channel for the build out, which actually there's probably a few more that I could make from all of the recordings and such. I do have a bunch of other footage that I could potentially produce stuff for the tech channel, but I've been not doing amazingly well with the productivity of releasing videos, so hopefully I can improve on that a lot. Yeah, 8 gigabytes of VRAM back in November. Obviously, hopefully this changes at some point, but I feel like it's going to be worse with the whole RAM situation. Hopefully not, but it's looking pretty bad. Let's see. Valve explains why the Steam Machine doesn't have HDMI 2.1. Because expense, maybe? No, open source driver rules. I'm not clarified why the new Steam Machine spec on this HDMI 2.0, even though the hardware is wired for 2.1. So it's capable. Maybe a firmware or operating system update could fix that. Cannot expose the full feature set because 2.1 standard is licensed. Oh, that's irritating. Yeah, HDMI is kind of a issue at this point, in my opinion, because I don't know if they have to pay per port, but there are licensing fees and such, which is stupid. Pay per port. Okay, we'll try the Google AI. This isn't necessarily correct, but per unit royalty. Huh. Annual fee per unit. Yeah, but what does per unit mean? Let's see. This is not necessarily correct. It's just a nice way to interact with data. Primarily due to technical advantages for PC users rather than per port licensing costs. Superior bandwidth and performance. I've been having to buy DisplayPort to HDMI cables, and it's kind of irritating. Because I do a lot of streaming stuff now, and I have different setups for different things, so I have an area where I can do hands-on. I've probably done a few streams on the tech channel. And Yeah, I've been using a lot of my display outputs. I did buy a generic HDMI cable today. I don't know if I specifically need it, but 15 footer. Got this in Menards for slightly under $10. It's extreme home theater. I don't know if these are available online besides Menards. And if you don't know what Menards is, it's a home improvement store mostly, but they also have food. They have, you know, it's kind of a general merchandise in a way, but it's geared towards home improvement and building houses and stuff. I guess I can open this up. Got the lighting in the background now. Decided maybe for the tech channel it'll be matrix green. If I remember each time. Whoops, there are more stickers. Oh my goodness. It's not that difficult to open a box. Feels like it. Ouch. Okay. Yeah. It looks decent so far. Good stress relief on the end there. Has caps. Kind of thick, which isn't necessarily bad, but... Oh, this is a 4K HDR one. It's not... They did have some 8K ones, but I went for cheaper. It says 15 foot, 30 AWG, 4K 2160p, and 3D video Blu-ray. Ethernet connection. The speed up to 18 gigabits per second. You can do Ethernet through HDMI. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. Looks alright. Have to try it at some point. One of my goals here is to do a stream on USB. I mentioned this before, but I've been slacking on it, no surprise. Because I have to set up a second computer properly with a bunch of scenes and cameras and things, so that I can use my main computer and film it while I'm installing and dealing with the USB stuff. So the goal of the stream, and I would like to make an actual video of it. And like I said, I've been talking about this for months, is to kind of potentially motivate people or suggest and at least highlight the possibility of using all of your motherboard headers that have USB functionality on them, because depending on your motherboard, there's a lot of USB availability that is basically wasted. Although in some situations they might be shared with other components on the motherboard, but a lot of the time, at least with my motherboard, for example, it's an MSI X670E Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. That's the full name. It has a bunch of motherboard headers for USB, and yeah, it's just kind of a waste not to break them out into something useful, in my opinion. So that's a goal. I have a bunch of stuff to do that. Anyways, whoops, let me switch back to the smaller camera. Yeah, so it looks like Anyways, what I was saying is that I would like to do that stream and then make a full video on it, talking about the headers on the motherboard with USB and showing different ways you can break them out into back ports or whatever else. I have a few things. Anyways, that's cool. Let's see what else we've got. Two CPUs. That's going down. In my case, I have 12. Well, technically, I don't know if this includes virtual ones. The current AMD ones still have the hyper-threading, whatever it's called, on AMD side. So technically 24, but it's logical cores versus, physical. So it's 12 physical cores. VR headsets. I've never done much with VR. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know if I want to get into it. Yeah. Anyways, it'll be interesting to see December's scores and such, and data on that. Oh, I had seen an article or something. It was about Windows activation. I think. Oh no, it was about Windows trying to force people to have a online account linked to the operating system rather than the base on the computer account. They were further making it more difficult when when you're installing the operating system, which is really stupid. But Microsoft is not the nicest towards potential customers these days. Let's see. Company says the port is capable of HDMI 2.1. Yeah. The standard is licensed in how Linux display drivers are built. The root problem is HDMI forum's stance on HDMI 2.1. Group does not permit a full open source implementation of the 2.1 feature set, which blocks the open AMD GPU drivers. So basically it's HDMI group or forum, whatever they're called. They're the problem. No surprise. Money. So they can't implement everything in the spec. AMD engineer Alex previously stated that open source 2.1 would conflict with the forum's requirements. So maybe are those websites still useful where people can go and sign a letter or sign a list and saying that something should happen? Because maybe someone should do that and complain about the HDMI forum. I would sign it, probably. As long as it's, it's not too specific of what information they want. Steam Machine supports FreeSync over HDMI, but cannot currently expose HDMI VRR. I don't know much about the display tech. It's a new term to me. Standardized variable refresh. Okay, variable refresh rate. At 2.1. Disappointing. Another issue with open source versus crappy companies. No surprise though. So we've got the 9850X 3D. Appears at retailers. Is it just kind of a slight bump in specifications or something? I have found it odd how CPUs basically the CPU companies are basically selling overclocked CPUs these days. It's odd because early on, they had base rates and everything. I understand the point of the variability for efficiency, but now they're using the variability for performance differences and then charging more for it. So what's the point of overclocking? I don't know. There's probably still a gap, especially for the people that use liquid nitrogen cooling and all that. But still, I feel like it's not as prevalent now. Maybe I just don't look into it or watch overclocking like I used to. See what people are doing with that. But it feels like it's not much of a thing because, at least in my opinion, the manufacturers are using that buffer for themselves to make more money. 120 watt TDP, so they didn't change the TDP. That's interesting. One cool thing about this setup, again, I have the X670E MSI board, which is probably on other ones. It's probably a general feature of this platform, is that you can set the TDP of the CPU. So I have the 9900X, but then I tend to use lower TDPs because I don't need more heat and stuff, but it is winter, so I upped the TDP. I still have it one notch down from the default. I think it's at 90 watts, but there's a TDP and then there's a TPP or whatever the other one is that's actually a higher absolute wattage, something like that. I can actually look in hardware info or whatever it's called. Let's see. CPU ID HW monitor, hardware monitor. Oh, got an update. Whoops, that's the wrong. Yeah, I've got another camera on. I forgot to turn that camera off. Oh well. I guess I'll update this. Oh, well, it's working. Maybe I'll update it later. Yeah. So if we look at the CPU, does that not work? Oh, that's the RAM. Yeah, I wish I had bought more RAM when it was like a larger, higher capacity kit. Like 96 would have been nice, but I went with 64 at the time. Trying to save money. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so I set it. Oh, it's PPT. So I'm pretty sure I have it set to a 90 watt TDP in the BIOS, but the PPT currently is 128 watts. So when you set it to its TDP of, I think the 9900X. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing again here. There we go. That's a little better. And maybe it was 120 watts? Huh. I thought there was an AMD CPU that had a higher TDP than that. Let's look it up. This one says 120. Sure. Okay, so the default is 120. But then the PPT is higher. So if we look at this again, can I make this font bigger? Probably. Whatever. Yeah, PVT limit 128 watts. Because like I said, I have it set to 90 TDP. So if it were defaulted, this would be even higher. I think it's 160. Let's look up the term. Whoops, stop. Package power tracking, assuming this is correct. See what Reddit says. Okay, package power tracking. So we got that. So official LTT? No. Are there official, maybe Wikipedia? I just want like actual verified information. $170 watt. Is that the, okay, up to 230 watts for AIM-5. That's the only mention. What is this? Note 16. Okay, it's just some type of random website. Custom PC. I don't think I've ever been here. 2023. I don't even see those terms in here. I'm curious what this website is. Go see your site for computer hardware. Let's add this to our list. I said I was going to look at news, so maybe I should refocus. Of course, I'm open to any comments or questions. Not that I'm an expert on any of this stuff. Although I've been using computers for a long time, I'm pretty old, so. My first computer, technically, was a Commodore 64. But I was pretty young, and it was a hand-me-down from a friend of the family, and it was kind of old at that point. Anyways, I did some basic programming, or tried to, played some games on it, but I didn't do a ton of things. My main first computer was Windows 95 Toshiba Infinia. It was a Pentium 166 MMX, so not the original Pentium, but the MMX version, which is media extensions in there. You know, the CPU, like additional stuff. I don't know the term, but that thing, I think it had 16 megabytes of RAM by default. But then I remember updating the RAM. I remember swapping the CPU at one point with an AMD CPU, and then I had to it was a specialty CPU swap. But then I found out my motherboard, and it was an OEM, you know, Toshiba. I had to pay for a BIOS from AMI or whatever the big BIOS maker is. I'm trying to remember what their name is. Is it AMI? Anyways, that was weird, but it worked. What else? I probably changed the hard drives and things at the time. I did add graphics cards. Eventually I had Voodoo Banshee graphics card. Let's see. Banshee. 3DFX Voodoo Banshee. 3DFX. There are a bunch of stuff that I probably have forgotten at this point, computer hardware wise, that I've used or tried back then. I remember having a Gigabyte graphics card. I think it might have been AMD. Might have been NVIDIA. Stuff like that. All I remember is that graphics card failed eventually. And it was Gigabyte branded. So that kind of soured me on Gigabyte. But I mean, Gigabyte, if you want to sponsor my channel, I'll consider it. I feel like all of the computer component manufacturers have had some issue or another. And I had made my motherboard review on the YouTube channel. And then there was a comment complaining about MSI and saying, you know, oh, this and that. Yeah, so people will have different experiences based on, you know, if they get a dud or not. At least for me personally, the main hardware issues I've had with components, Gigabyte and what is the other one? Asus is kind of like, they're supposed to be a higher end brand, but my experiences with them are not like high end. But I can't say that I've had something totally a dud from them. I've generally had good luck with MSI, but I did have issues with the BIOS updates for this motherboard. It was multiple BIOS that would not work, and it made the computer, or it made the thing reset, force reset, because it was claiming that there was a USB voltage issue after the BIOS update. So that was multiple versions of BIOS that were problematic, or basically not functional. But this current one that's available works fine. So I'm glad they fixed that, because probably me and other people complained. So the MSI, I did 2 or 3 support requests to them the first time that I tried it, and it failed and it was non-functional. And then at least a second time. I'm not sure about 3, but thankfully the current BIOS is good for me. But anyways, this is the 3DFX Voodoo Banshee. This one had 2D and 3D. The original 3DFX, I can't remember the name of it. It was just 3D. And so you needed a 2D card and a 3D card. But this one was a combo. It wasn't as fast as the 3D only, as far as I remember. But I wanted it for the convenience of both. Yeah, so it was the first true 2D 3D chip made it by 3DFX 1998. That's actually newer than, well, yeah, I guess that would have been around the time. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, I don't think I would have put this in the Toshiba. Well, maybe. Or it could have been another build that I had done afterwards. No, this was probably... Yeah, I'm not sure. This was probably a PCI card. Like standard, original PCI. 8 megabytes of memory. I don't remember which one I had. I can't do 32-bit color. Yeah. I don't know if I even have any photos of or anything of this. Sadly. Although I did scan my entire photo archive recently. It would be fun to go through. This specific program that I use to scan the archive does AI keywords, and a computer is a good keyword. So there's a lot of stuff that from old photos that I could browse. That'll probably be a good stream here on the tech channel. I mean, technically I could do a little bit. So much stuff everywhere. Let's see. Kind of going in too many directions. There was a rumor that Samsung wanted to stop production of consumer SSDs, but I think they said that's not true. That would have been nuts. So obviously, one of the big news is that Crucial, or technically Micron, which was the owner of Crucial, is shuttering the Crucial brand of consumer RAM. And they also do SSDs. They probably do some other stuff. So that's pretty bad for the standard consumer of computer components. It's disappointing to see. I do use some AI tools in my production workflow now. Basically, the only one that I use for the most part is Gemini Pro through the AI Studio. So I use it for helping to make shorter versions of my full videos by giving it caption data. I use it to help me make website articles, again, based on my videos that I make. So I'm not doing generative crap. Like, I mean, I've done a tiny bit of but like image stuff, but based on my actual stuff that I make. So even then, I don't do the generative text to whatever. And kind of my justification for using this stuff is that some of my caption data and such was placed into the Pile, which is one of the big data sets that had existed at one point. I don't know if these companies still use it, but I didn't agree to it. It was just in there from my YouTube videos. And if my stuff's going to be used without my consent, I'm going to try to benefit from the use of these tools as much as I can, just to try to make everything work and be more efficient and such. Let's see. What is this? Okay, the 9850 X3. I know I'm going on a bunch of tangents here. Oh. It's 8 core. Why would they make this? Oh, it's just like a mid-range. Okay, probably the reason that they are doing this one is because the top end, the 16 core with the 3D V-Cache, they're going to be ones that are not capable of all the cores functioning, or potentially some of the V-Cache. Yeah, that's why the V-Cache, the cache is smaller and the CPU count is smaller. So this is basically a junked 9950 X3D that wasn't fully capable. So they're just selling it as a slightly, more than slight. Less cores, less V-Cache. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, that's fine. Okay, so the TDP for the top end is 170 watts. And then if again, the PPT value, which is going to be a higher wattage number, that's the top end, I think. Is it time? I'm not going to go anywhere, but enjoy whatever restaurants you're going to go to. Doing some multi-streaming tech stuff. I need to focus on my video stuff. Anyways, let's see. Look at a few more articles here. NVIDIA Titan prototype. Yeah, I think I saw that video. 9070 DXT. Windows Server 2025. Native NVMe storage support. MSI laptops powered by Core Ultra. Okay, so Core Ultras, they're more recent. Just haven't really heard much about Intel's latest CPUs. Yeah. AMD Ryzen 445 Gorgon Point 6-core CPU. Ryzen 400. 4 cores. So it's a refresh Strix Point. Whoops. Let's see. Just looking at my old photos to pull up pictures of old computer stuff. Can't remember where to search. Oh, advanced search. Here it is. So like I had said, I did a scan of my entire photo archive, and it does AI keywords. And computer is generally one that shows a bunch of results. This might take this old computer a little bit of time to do the search, so I'll probably pull up some photos in a second. So that's actually good. There's a bunch of old components. So CRT monitor. This is a Samsung SyncMaster 955SL. It was a decent monitor. Although I remember the first one that I got, and this was sold as a combo. I remember buying this from Outpost.com, which I doubt still exists. But it was a combo deal. And then the first screen that I got was basically junk. So I had to deal with sending a massive CRT back and then get another one. That was a big hassle. But the good one was fine. It was a pretty nice monitor. Let's see what else we got here. Bunch of... Oh, this was a nice case. Antec piano case or something like that. Actually, this was not the piano one, but it was a similar design. I made that desk. Yeah. I still have this mouse pad. So out of everything here, I might have some cables, but I still have the mouse pad. This case is long gone. I think that's gone. I don't think I have that. I'm pretty sure I got rid of the speakers a long time ago. Obviously, this praline thing is long gone. Let me see if there's any other fun computer component pictures. This would be a nice stream just to look at these old micro something keyboard. Another micro ATX computer. It's a DVD drive, floppy drive. Old VHS player. VCR player. Another one. Bubblegum shrimp. This was a gift. I don't think I have this one anymore. Mousepad. That's a camera battery charger. I still have that. It's a camera back here. That was my first decent-ish digital camera. I did have some other cameras, but that was the good one. Super Nintendo. I still have this. Some type of controller. I think that's the Xbox. I mean, I'm saying Microsoft control Sidewinder or something like that. I don't have that anymore. I'll look at a few more. This is not computers, but Super Nintendo games. Let's see. No, you have to be careful. There's some personal information in here. I can avoid showing this somehow. I delete it. No. Maybe full screen. All right, yeah, this is another old computer. I think I might have bought this motherboard used. It looks like I took the fan off of the Northbridge. Oh wait, no, this was, I think this was the AMD build. So the Athlon, obviously not the original Athlon, it was not a slot thing. I'm not sure what that graphics card was. I don't know if that was the Voodoo Banshee or not. See if there's a better photo of it. Not really. Now this was a 2 megapixel camera, so yeah, view. Okay, this was a TV tuner card. Those were a thing. This was a network card, sound card, like a sound blaster. Out of all of this, I don't think I have any of this stuff. That might have been an Abbott motherboard, which was not bought used. It's probably just older at this point. Okay, this is a better. Okay, this is a Gigabyte graphics card. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, I think that's good for now. Anyways, tech news. It'd be nice if AMD comes out with the new version of this with the fast RAM. So the Strix Point thing, obviously it can be used in laptops, but also there have been a bunch of desktop computers. I did join affiliate programs for 2 of those, Minis Forum and another one I can't remember. But they haven't tried to contact me or anything. So I don't know if I'll get access to anything at any point. But it would be nice to check out one of those computers with a bunch of RAM. Obviously now it's even less likely with how expensive RAM has gotten. But the general idea for me obviously is local larger language model stuff. I have done a bit with it on this old computer back here, but I can basically only run 7 billion parameter models or so. So, you know, something with more RAM that's decently fast is a nice option. No, it's not, it wouldn't be amazing or anything with one of these computers that like has 128 gigabytes of soldered on RAM. I don't know. I kind of doubt that it's more channels, you know, memory channels, but that would increase the speed if it were more. I think it's just faster RAM than usual. Anyways, hopefully AMD comes out with the new version of this after Strix Point. But, you know, if the RAM situation gets better, then it would be potentially a really nice platform for that type of stuff. $9060 XT low power. So it has an 8-pin connector. So the original one is 180 watt TDP. 40 watts lower. So basically they underclocked it for you. Or undervolted it for them, for the buyer. I wouldn't mind it. It'd be better than my current thing, probably. Yeah. 320 gigabytes a second. Yeah, it's probably just going to be China only. HDMI 2.2. Speaking of Minis Forum, like I said, I added myself to their affiliate program, but I don't really have access to their equipment, so it's not super useful at the moment. I can put a link in my description after the stream, and if you want to click on it, I would potentially get a commission. So this looks like Oculink, PCIe to Oculink. So eGPUs, NVMe enclosures. So basically external graphics cards. Yeah, that's pretty cool. PCIe 4x4. $70 to have an external GPU. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, in desktop situations, it's kind of like, what's the point? But maybe if you wanted to have one in the computer and then have a secondary GPU as an external thing. You can do that. Potentially. There's another one. It's an ITX board. Ryzen 8945HX. Yeah, this is basically what I was talking about. But it's probably like a Strix Point thing or something. Or not. No, this is different. So it's got actual DDR5 slots. Maybe, yeah, SODIMM. Yeah, this is separate. Could be a cool little computer, but obviously not very upgradable when the CPU is soldered like that. Colorful launches 5060 Ti. New scam. Sealed DDR5 kit sold as new. With DDR2 sticks in it. Okay. Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy if Samsung leaves the consumer SSD market. Man, it's still nuts that Micron dropped Crucial. So maybe SK Hynix will be the one to save consumers. I doubt it, but maybe. Mentioning that they're working towards resolving bottlenecks. Let's see. DDR RAM shortages have shocked the supply chain. Let's see if we can find an actual quote here. SK Hynix has completed 2 years of construction on its new M15X fab. HBM. I mean, that's for server stuff. Whoops. There it is. Throwing chips around. The company has informed us that Well, they informed them that commenting is premature. Okay, that's super cool. Yeah, this was kind of a useless article, as far as I can tell. Was that the main quote? Is that it's premature to talk about it? Hmm. Let's see what other news they have. Redstone is AMD's new name for their frame gen features. Yeah, frame generation features. SK Hynix 256 gigabyte DDR5 RDIMM. Oh, for Intel Xeon CPU. Yeah. Server corrupt. Corporate espionage. Restrain T-Mobile from scraping customer data off AT&T's website. What? Are companies that petty? Whatever. Larian said they were doing something absolutely everyone is doing and got an insanely crazy. Oh, it's the AI stuff. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. AI hysteria. Using generative AI in specific tasks, concept art, placeholder text, PowerPoint presentations, making the new Divinity game. Is this the one that had a insane trailer? I did watch the Game Awards. I don't know if anyone else watched the Game Awards, probably. It was my favorite of the whole Game Awards was Flute Guy in the orchestra. But it was a good show. Yeah, is this the... Oh, it is. It is this one. That was a nutso trailer, which I guess worked to get people to talk about it. But let's see. It says, is this an actual quote here? This AI hysteria is the same as when people were smashing steam engines. Whose quote is this? I don't want to read it word for word here. Someone shared their thoughts. This Daniel of Warhorse, makers of Kingdom Come. garbage platform. This AI hysteria, I'm talking about X. Is this the one talking about Steam engines? Well, if you want to read it, it's in the article. So much text. Apple upcoming low-cost MacBook. Like, what is low cost for Apple? Slower than current generation iPad. Even Apple's going to go value. I'm guessing it's still going to be expensive. Hmm. 12.9-inch display. I don't have anything against Apple. I just have never gotten into their stuff. I wouldn't mind an iPad or something, but yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to buy one. Not that I can, but priorities. Game Awards broke viewership records. 171 million live streams globally. Yeah, there were a bunch of people streaming the awards. So they were streaming, but they were streaming the awards, watching it. Live viewing. It was up 11% compared to last year. And then 12% compared to, wait, 23,000 co-streams. Mm-hmm. NVIDIA's AI chips might have a new challenger. Amazon's Trainium ASIC. Huh. ASIC is application specific integrated circuit, probably. Something like that. So obviously it's designed for a specific task. Or that could be programmable. Who knows? We could look it up and see what. There's a deep dive. AI chip purpose built. Deliver the best token economics. So it's this one. Kind of useless information. Does petaflops. 144. 144 gigabytes of HBM3E memory. 4.9 terabytes a second memory bandwidth. That's good. That would be nice in a GPU. Yeah, so when you look at people running local large language models on GPUs, even the high-end ones, maybe 4.9 terabytes a second. Is this actually good? Terabytes. This doesn't seem right. Yeah, so this is basically 2 terabytes a second for the 5090, which is obviously, it's at 512-bit memory bus. Well, 1,800 gigabytes a second, 1.7 terabyte, however that specific number turns into. Yeah, so this is 4.9. So it's a significantly higher memory bandwidth compared to the 5090. And then the lower end ones are down into the hundreds of gigabytes. This 4060 that I have is probably only like 300 gigabytes a second, maybe. And that makes a big difference with the large language model stuff. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, but basically this is using capacity from TSMC, which could be used for GPUs, consumer stuff. It is concerning with all this pressure on the consumer computer component industry and availability of stuff. I don't think many people would be on board with doing computing as a service. I definitely would not. It doesn't make a ton of sense. I know they're Gamers Nexus, Steve was kind of talking in that direction. And I get it. I see that stuff is getting more expensive, and I just don't know if there would be intent for that, Like, are these companies trying to do that, or is it just a situation that happened because they want all of the hardware? I think they just want all the hardware for themselves, but I don't know if they'd want to try to sell general computing to people. But maybe they think the idea of general computing's going to go away because people will just want to talk to a thing and have it do stuff for them. So that would be the agentic AI, with Microsoft saying that Windows 11 is going to turn into an agentic AS. Operating system. Agentic AI OS. At face value, it's like gross. but also having a thing to do tasks for me, when you think about it, that could be really useful if it does it properly. Because there are a lot of things that I would like to offload productivity wise, especially, I mean, even more so like with more skill and more thought, video editing. I would love something to edit videos for me. But yeah. So anyways, I'm not completely against the idea of the agentic operating system. Basically means agent. So AI agents. And the agent, the concept of the agent thing, as far as I understand, is, you know, it's just going to go and do tasks for you. So you'll have multiple agents do things, and it's useful in some contexts, but it's also not useful in other contexts, because you don't need a thing to do a thing. You don't need it to do things for you all the time. But there are certain tasks that would definitely benefit from a multi-stage entity that could, you know, do multiple things, like do this, and then if it works, do that, if this and that, and go down the line of the process. I could write up and come up with a bunch of things that I'd like to do. So for example, I have a ton, I mean, you can do it programmatically as well. That's basically the way that I do a lot of that stuff. It's just with smart programs, and it's not AI. It has nothing to do with AI. It's just logical software. For example, if I wanted to go into a bunch of my old videos on another YouTube channel that I have that's bigger, it's got over 1,000 videos. I have a bunch of affiliate links in those videos that are old and they don't basically function right anymore, and I don't get commissions from them. So I'd like to swap those or remove them. And you could do it programmatically. You don't have to do it through AI, but you still need logic, and you still need to understand the description of a video. You don't want to damage stuff in the description if you're reading and writing to it. You want to just deal with the certain little things that need to be fixed. And you can do that programmatically without AI, but there are some benefits to potentially doing it with an agent. The thing is, the agents aren't necessarily smart. So I don't know if we're up to that point. They are getting smarter in ways that could be beneficial. Like I said, I tend to use Gemini 3. Or I started with Gemini 2, 2.5, and now 3 in the AI Studio. But it's just a text chat thing. It's not agent stuff. I would prefer to do everything locally, so I don't have access to the hardware that would make it viable. You need really, really good hardware to get the level of model that can do good, like functional, logical, good work. All right, let's take a little bit more news here. So let me go back to this one. NVIDIA is now rumored to be significantly, this is 17 hours ago, significantly reducing production of 50 series GPUs. Memory shortage. Oh boy. So are we going to have another GPU crazy time in addition to the memory thing? well. Yeah, it's just piece of components are messed up. Let's look at RAM prices in stock. DDR5. Let's go for the standard stuff. Guess I could add some of the faster kits. But those are going to be expensive in general. Lowest price kit. That's a can't even. Let me remove the single sticks. Oh my gosh. Crucial 64 gigabyte DDR5 5600 CL46. So this is a pretty crap kit. I think mine might be CL46, but I paid like 100 something. Let me see how much I paid. So this is in November, late November 2024. I paid $137.99 for a DDR5 5600 kit, 64 gigabytes, CL40. So my cache latency is better than this. So basically my RAM is better than this, and I paid 100 and what was it? $137.99 in November, like late November 2024. Now it's something that's worse. $610. I feel like we need government intervention or something like that. That's insane. That's gross. And that's the cheapest kit. Here's a 64 gigabyte, 600 CL40. So, okay, 620. This is basically the same spec as the one that I have. Mine doesn't have RGB. $620 versus $138. So a 5x increase in price is nuts. And it goes up in price. Okay, this is better cache latency. There's a $40 off coupon. Oh boy. Yeah, that's gross. Let's take a look at SSDs, because that's another one that's apparently having issues. Let's see. CPU. Where's storage? Oh. Internal SSDs. This one, sorry. This would, geez, my voice, okay. This would not work in standard motherboards and stuff. It's M.2 SATA, so it's a very specific use case. Oh, yeah, I don't think that would. There was like a generation where it was used, but so basically PCI Express ones. Those are probably good. I don't know what that means. One Boom Pride. $142 for, or $43 for 1 terabyte. I thought I didn't select 1 terabyte in here. So, yeah, I didn't. So we've got a, I think this might be, I think I might have one of these. Or it's similar. 2 terabyte PCI Express 4x4 NVMe 1.4 for 150. Yeah, I feel like this at one point was probably around $100. Let me see if I have a order history for this one. Okay, mine was different. So I paid back in 2020. It was a CS2130 2 terabyte Gen 3 by 4 SSD from PNY. So this one is obviously newer. I paid $230. So this is $150. So I mean, it's probably, the price has probably increased in general since, you know, the low points, but it's still cheaper than I paid back in 2020. for a 2 terabyte SSD of probably similar or better performance technically. So I mean, I think that's fine. Yeah. This, I mean, we could look at, let me take this thing. Let's see if this works. Okay, so the absolute, let me do new. The absolute low point was $80. Like 100. Yeah, very September of last year was the low point. And it has been more expensive. So that was in March of last year. It has gone up probably. This is 150. Yeah, this is 150. Yeah, this doesn't look, I mean, it's gone up, but it's not crazy. And then obviously it was much more expensive years back. Yeah, I think that's fine to buy something like that right now. Even though it is a bit more expensive, you know, if you need it type of thing. So that's all right. ADATA 170, but I mean, this is the low point though. For whatever reason, that's cheaper. It's 170 for this one. Some random brand, One Boom. Never heard of One Boom SSDs. King Spec, 180, 75. Another PNY. I think this might be the one that I have. I don't know why it's more expensive than the one up here. Okay, that's 3D NAND. Is this... Do they have different memory chips or something? I'm not sure why this one is more expensive. Okay, it's PCI Express 5, so this isn't the one that I have. Okay, I have the 2130, so the 3 and the 5 must indicate, at least in that one specific case, 2150 probably indicates the PCI Express spec speed version, you know, the version of it. So that's probably why this one's more expensive. Timetech. This one's a bit slower and kind of expensive. Yeah, some of these are more expensive than they should be. Oh, was Western Digital another one that was going away? Complete separation? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's not as bad as RAM. So maybe $200 for a 2 terabyte, like I have a high quality one. But honestly, I would go with the P&Y up here for 150. Oops, where is it? Yeah, this one. Oh, that's PCIe 5 by 4. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Not that one. This one. So this is probably like a previous gen, but it's still fine. I go for this. Good operating system drive, you know, or whatever. Probably would have been cheaper, but it still seemed alright. I don't know what other components would. I guess we'd check CPUs real quick. Oh, I forgot I had this up. Let me check the one that I bought. Actually, I can search here. What? What? Refurbished CPU? What's the... I don't know what that is. This comes with a cooler. $389.99. Let me see how much I paid for mine. $382.55. This was back in November, like late November 2024. $382.55. So basically the same price. A little bit more expensive, but this comes with a cooler. Mine didn't come with a cooler. So it's actually technically a slight discount if you include the price of a cooler, assuming this one's decent. Cooler Master Liquid. Oh, so this is a AAO. I've never used a AAO. I did do water cooling once, but it was before all that stuff existed. Okay, that's a fair deal, although it's kind of a small one. Well, 240, 220 millimeter fans on it, $84 retail or whatever price. Yeah, that looks like a good deal then, I guess, if you don't mind that cooler. So technically a better value right now than what I paid for mine at the time. But I did it on like Black Friday time period, so it was more expensive back then in general, like before and after when I bought it. So my prices were really good at the time, or better than most, you know. I think it had dropped a little bit, but I missed that window when the price of the CPU at the time when I bought it was slightly lower. So yeah, not bad for that. I can't really, well, I could use the camel thing to check prices for other CPUs, but Intel Core Ultra 9 285K. I think that's probably their high-end one. 265, 20 cores. It has 8 performance cores, 12 efficiency cores for $300. Well, that sounds decent. I don't know how this compares to AMD stuff, but we could do a quick. Could be faster. Hmm. Yeah. Is Intel the value option? Hmm. Yeah. It does have more cores overall, but it has 8 performance versus 12 for AMD. Maybe I could do a virtual build with this at some point. I don't know if anyone would be interested in that. I forgot I'm on the wrong face cam again. Keep doing that. Because the button I have on the Stream Deck is for that thing. But then I have another scene for the thin one. I should probably swap them. $265 KF. I think that's what does not include the video. It's probably better to get the $300 one. I really don't know much about Intel's current stuff. 125 watt TDP. It's a 3 nanometer? Huh. So this is built on likely TSMC. Oh yeah, TSMC in 3B. And then, yeah, this definitely seems like a better value than AMD. But the problem is with this is probably a dead platform already. Intel insists on only having 2 or maybe 3 generations on a. So LGA 1851. Okay, yeah. So they're going to have a 1954 socket. Yeah. So it's kind of tough. I mean, there are a lot of situations where my last computer, this is the Intel i7 6700, and that was basically the last option on that platform. And I used it for years and years, and it lasted a good long while, but the CPU at this point is definitely the limitation of what I could have done with that. Because if I put a better GPU in there, it's not. I did see some performance difference with the GTX 1060 6GB and the 4060 8GB. There were some uplifts with that old CPU. I did some videos on that if you want to look at those. But there were situations where it was hitting the CPU limit quite a bit. and there, you know, there were one or two CPUs that I could put in there, but it wouldn't be worth the cost of the CPU because they're basically just like overclocked, higher clock versions of that. I don't think they ever went over 4 cores with that platform. So Intel. Oops, got a fingerprint on my lens. The downside of glasses. Got a bunch of fingerprints on them. All right, come on. Probably good enough. Yeah, so could potentially have a good deal with this. I mean, does this include a heatsink? So the AMD 9900X, that includes a pretty expensive heatsink. You're basically just paying for the heatsink in that case, comparatively. Although the Intel did have higher performance in that one test that I looked at with this and multi-core. So the problem is with the cost of RAM, you probably should just not bother building a computer. The problem is sometimes you kind of need to. So buying $600 RAM, yeah, I just don't see any options really. Unless you can find some used RAM that the person doesn't realize that the value of it has gone up so much. Which, I mean, could be possible. But, 300. I don't know if motherboards would be a better value here either, because they're basically a dead platform, maybe. So what was the LGA 81851? Guess we can add this. I feel like I've probably looked in enough news, really. I'll just do this real quick with the virtual build and then call it. Like I said, I've been wanting to do more on this channel, the tech channel. But it's been difficult. So we can also add oops. Probably be better to go through the menus. Motherboard, Intel. Let's say in stock, new. Okay. Sort by cheapest. 130 for a B860. I don't know the chipsets for Intel. So B860 live mixer. But if you're going to try to just make a efficiency build that's fast, it might not make a huge difference. Spending a bunch extra on a motherboard. Usually they differentiate a lot with the USB. So if you need a bunch of USB connectivity, probably want to look into the details. Oh yeah, I was trying to remember the name of the company that I have had some issues with. ASRock is one of them. The motherboard I had for this old computer back here was originally an ASRock one, but it It worked at first, and then it slowly died. And the display would not function. I was using add-in card too, so it's probably some who knows what. But then I swapped it for the MSI board, and that one's solid. Still is. Years later. Yeah, so 100. That's a Micro ATX. Asus Prime. Let's go full ATX. Yeah, of course, Gigabyte and ASRock are the cheapest. No surprise. 165 for MSI. I just add that. Well, that is quite the price difference. I mean, $30, $40 does make a difference. Problem is RAM. So we could go back to the SSD first. Actually, I don't want 1 terabyte. I feel like 2 terabytes should be good enough for the operating system. A lot of the time. I mean, it depends on what you do, of course. So that was a P&Y branded. Yeah, so 150. They might have deals, but I kind of doubt they have any RAM deals. I'm not sure what the... I don't know what the recommended RAM speed is for Intel. No, it says up to. Is it 56? Default. And try Google AI. Whoops. Should have clicked the... Oh, that can't be right. Huh. Weird. So that's like a base. What does this one say? Starts at. I'll question it. $64. Okay, so we'll target that. Get rid of a bunch of these things here. This should be comical, pricing wise. Oh, actually, let's go back for a second. See if they have similar products. Do they not even have kit like combo deals anymore? I'm not seeing anything. Products related to. I don't see anything. Maybe I should have used the PC Builder. Build with AI. Okay. So it's Intel Core Ultra. Okay, they have combos here. I think it was the 265K. Yeah. No combo. This thing. I mean, honestly, it might be for an actual... Assuming you can find them new or cheap. The 12th gen Intel. I would skip the 13th and 14th gen Intel. But the 12th gen Intel, older computer based on that might be a option. And then you use DDR4. Although I think it could do 4 and 5, depending on the platform. I haven't looked at that in a while, but... So there's that. Motherboard. I mean... in stock. Yeah, this thing doesn't pay attention to what you select and change things. Maybe I should have used Micro Center. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, it's going to be expensive. And that's just the RAM is going to be the price of the... Like if you want 64 gigabytes of RAM, you're probably going to spend this amount for the CPU, motherboard, and an SSD in this case. Yeah, I think that kind of gets the point across. Anyways, I think I'm good for today. Hopefully, if you see this stream after facts, you found it interesting in some way. And hopefully do more of these. We'll see. But I would like to also do a bunch of edited videos for the tech channel. I have a few things that I've recorded, kind of weird stuff or unusual stuff. And for example, I have a light here. I swapped the fan. It's basically a PC fan. I swapped that so I could do a video going through the process of that. It's a studio light. I think I have one or two other things. I might even have some old PC builds footage that I haven't used fully. Or I did the X670E motherboard plus the AIM-5 build. Stuff like that. And then I mentioned the USB headers and, you know, breaking out those to back ports or some other stuff that I can show. And I'm going to probably do a live stream for that one. And then hopefully edit some type of video from it. But yeah, I'm going to head out. Peace. You'll see my end screen is not for the tech channel, but it's for my streaming stuff. So anyways, see ya.